No matter what I do, I'm stuck on you. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. No matter what I do, I'm stuck on you. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu. I got deja. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. No matter what I do, I'm stuck on you. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu. I got deja. Stay high, can't lie. I just gotta keep you off of my mind. I just gotta stay on my grind. You get the whole day, I just need the nighttime. I don't wanna fight. It seems like we do this shit and rewind. Seems like you only need some me time, baby. I wish I could freeze time. No matter what I do, I'm stuck on you. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. No matter what I do, I'm stuck on you. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu. I got deja vu. I know my mind ain't playing tricks on me. Right now everything is moving slow. Yeah, this shit is real. I know it ain't no phony. Yeah, I could've sworn I done seen this before. No matter what I do, I'm stuck on you. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. No matter what I do, I'm stuck on you. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu, yeah. I got deja vu. I got deja vu.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Vinci. We're back, drawing a portrait. Coolin', not doing too much. The usual. I don't know why the music turned back on. We're chilling. I got my mic in ASMR mode. I got my 3D printer going next to me. Construction going outside. I don't know if it's still going, but you know. Lots of shit happening. Gotta keep my mic low. Maybe you'll hear some nice sounds out of it. But today, we're gonna be drawing a portrait of, oh god, what is her original name? Let's see. Gabrielle Bonheur, or Chanel Coco. The creator of the notorious Chanel. Found some of these pictures on Pinterest, saw them, and I immediately knew I had to draw them. So we're going to spend some time in my little black book working out a little portrait. I don't plan on spending too much time on this, so I'm going to try to work through a pretty cohesive portrait in, let's say, an hour. Maybe shoot for 2 hours. We'll see. Portraits can vary. Starting off with, I'm going to use a 2H pencil. That's a little better. You can kind of see my camera, but you know, we're breaking down fourth walls. This isn't a professional production. This is a one-man show, so you gotta bear with the roughness around the edges. We're gonna wait a second, maybe see if we can get some more people in here. And today I think we're rolling with the music off. I think we're gonna try some new things in the future. I think the future is bright, a lot of new creations in the works, a lot of new paintings, a lot of things to be excited about. Like, for example, I guess I didn't even really tell you, but my 3D printer is working through chess pieces, printing out chess sets, tournament size, beautiful pieces. I just recently figured out the quality settings, so a lot of super stellar stuff coming off my printer these days. Pretty happy with it. Those are available on my website if you want to go pick one up. Pretty cheap for what goes into them. And for how expensive all my other shit is. You get a handmade chessboard. Can't beat it. Okay. We gotta get moving. So I got a reference picture printed out. Usually good to have a reference photo on hand, something physical. It's good to, I mean, I worked off of screens for so long that you either want to draw from life or from a physical photo, so you can see the values better. You can accurately judge it a little bit more easier if it's something right in front of you versus a screen. You can't always get an accurate feel of the whole thing. Can throw you off. So I'm just gonna make sure I have everything lined up before I start. Everything is in order. Stream quality is good. Life is good. Everything is beautiful. So if you're just starting to learn how to do portraits, or if you have never drawn before and you want to draw a portrait, one thing you can look for is a silhouette reference photo. So a photo of somebody's face to the side. So you don't have to worry about drawing both eyes or both nostrils, both ears. It's a little bit easier to configure, and you can do it pretty quickly if you know what you're doing. And there's a little more room for error. Okay. So I'm going to decide where I want her head to be placed. I've already got this reference photo printed out, the size I wanted, so I don't really have to worry about changing the size of my drawing. Like, okay, so if you're drawing something from life and you're sight sizing it, right? If you don't know what sight sizing is, you're let's say you're drawing a person, a figure. So you have them standing a far distance away from you. You have your paper kind of right next to them, so they're lined up right next to each other. You're gonna draw the exact size. Like you're gonna hold your arm straight out from you. You're gonna hold your pencil and you're gonna measure, and you're gonna take measurements based on what's the word I'm looking for? You're taking measurements based on how you see it. So yeah, there's margin for error. It's easy to kind of fuck it up, mess things up. But you got a reference photo. It's the same size as what you're gonna be drawing. You don't gotta worry about none of that shit. It's easy. It's quick. You can figure out details. You can place them on your paper. Life is good. Despite all the negativity or any negative thoughts you may have, life is good. So, kind of gonna line up her nose. Gonna place a mark on the paper. It's right on this horizontal. God, why is my brain not working with like words right now? This X right in the center of the paper. It converges with this line, so we're gonna place it right here. And then we're gonna take the measurement on the other side of the head, and we're gonna guesstimate. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just has to be close enough. Right? So the back of the head and the back of the hair are two very different things. Because your hair's bigger, it's gonna hang off your head. It's not gonna be stuck on your head unless you're a guy. It might be pretty close to the roundness on the back of your head. So it's good to consider when you're drawing a portrait just the human skull, because that's what builds the foundation of your portrait. So if you can get a good idea of how the skull is structured in different positions, and in this case the side angle, then you can learn how to draw it more easily. So here, this is, oh god, can you guys see that even? Not really. That's okay. We're working out where the skull is at. So this initial mark I placed on the paper probably isn't too correct. And you know what? That's okay. Because I'm working with the light pencil. All the marks I'm making in this stage, they're easily fixable, like this armature that I've already laid down that I haven't even mentioned yet. If you don't know what this is, go watch another video. This armature is way darker than the marks I'm making right now, so this is going to be pretty much erased anyway, so you don't have to worry about your mistakes. Everyone who's a beginner at drawing, they're always so stressed out about something not being right or making a mistake. But it's cool. The mistakes are what make your artwork. Why do you think people like Picasso? It's not because it's perfect. It's not even because it looks good. It kind of looks good. It looks cool, let's be honest. But objectively, maybe it doesn't look so good. I know people love them and hate them. But it's simple. That's the thing. So we have these two different reference points, which is the tip of the nose and the back of the hair. Now, because this is a silhouette, the ear is going to lay right about in the center of the head. It's good to know. So we can kind of guess maybe the ears somewhere in here. This is going to be mostly covered up by hair anyway. So this is just a good reference point for the rest of our drawing. Okay, I need to move this little string because it's kind of really annoying. Just like that, it's gone forever. Another helpful thing we can do is, this reference photo is the same size as our drawing, so we can line up just across, make sure you have it even with your drawing, and you can take measurements straight from the reference photo. Obviously you can trace this stuff, but I mean, I like the art of it. I like having a freehand drawing. I like being able to sketch things out, being able to work through things visually in my mind and just kind of comprehend something with my hands. You can trace it, feel free to trace it, but just know the drawbacks. They're not even that huge. They're actually, it's fine to trace. I like tracing. So if you don't feel like you have the skill to draw something, trace that shit. Don't get caught up in like the minutia trying to work out all the details, or like if you don't have the skill, like it's cool. Like you build up. Everyone starts at 0 before they build up to a high level of skill. And even the best artists, they started where you are if you're a beginner. Like it's always a cumulative growth that happens over the course of years. So be patient with yourself. I'm just exploring here. I'm not even worried about any of these lines being right. So I'm just trying to block it in, get the general shape. Like right now, I'm going to go from trying to articulate this head a little bit, and I'm going to take a step back cuz I've gotten ahead of myself in this drawing process, and I'm going to go a little bit more basic. So we're going to just block in the basic shapes around the outline. We're not going to worry about anything on the inside. So from the tip of the nose to the shoulder, you can draw a straight line from there to there. And from the back of the hair to the side of the arm, it's kind of about the same sort of angle. And it's going to come right up to the edge of the border of my page. One thing I haven't ever talked about before is before you lay out this armature, yeah, sure, you can draw this armature on the edges of the page. Like you don't need this 1/2-inch border. But if you do that, it's a little harder to get right. It's a little harder to tuck these little angles into the corner of a page. You kind of gotta, I like to move it in a 1/2-inch, draw a nice matting around the whole paper. It gives it a nice professional feel. And then that way, if anyone likes your drawing in the future, they can say, hey, I want to frame it. I want to display it and have it look like a beautiful work of art and not just keep it in a drawer. Then you have the option to do that because it's matted. But if it goes to the edge, it's gonna cut off part of it. It's gonna look weird. No good. Okay, I'm gonna move my reference because we're working on a little different section. So from the top of the shoulder, this just extends off the page. Don't have to worry about it. And then the arm goes down to the bottom of the page. And here we just have a simple little triangle. Don't think about it too much. Too many complex shapes. Don't think, just do. Basic, simple shapes. Doesn't take a genius to draw a triangle on your paper. You can do it, I believe in you. Anyone can do this shit. But it's like flying a plane. Anyone can do it, but not everyone's going to do it. But if you just follow my steps, maybe you'll get a little bit closer to flying that plane. Or maybe it'll take you a little bit further than you would have gotten if you were just trying alone. Cool, so we have a basic shape on our paper that roughly outlines the whole thing. Next step, we're gonna keep moving along the area outside of this outline that we've created, and we're gonna refine it, and we're gonna pull it in closer to our reference photo or our model where these lines would lay. So I kind of feel like starting here at the back of the hair. Maybe it extends up a little more. Then it draws back in towards the neck. And there's some little bubbles that just extend on in to the back of the neck. Great. Now maybe I guessed a little wrong. I can double check with my reference photo. Maybe that's a little bit too far down, so we're gonna tuck it back in, move it up only slightly. Maybe add some slight shapes for the draping, the hair hanging. It kind of dips, hangs. Here you can erase whatever lines do not suit you. Or keep them until you're done with the step. Then you can decide which ones are accurate, which ones are maybe not so accurate. And the back of the hair lines up perfectly with the bottom of the chin, and it creates this nice flow throughout the top of the head. Now we're going to jump to the other side of the neck, and we're going to try to guess the width of her neck here. Because you don't want it to be too big, you don't want it to be too small. But she's a woman, so it is a little bit thinner, maybe a little bit more dainty. But again, it's not going to be like a little stick neck. It's not going to be tiny. So just be mindful of the different things that you're drawing. So for example, like male and female traits are important. Now we're just going to kind of block in some of the fabric. Again, not worrying too much about the anatomy or even the flow of it. Just blocking things in. I know I have I know I have ink leaking through the page from the previous drawing, but I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue. Add some character. Okay, we've gone around most of the edges. We're going to move back up to the face because one thing I haven't really touched are the facial features, and those are pretty important. So we want to make sure we do those correctly. We want to get things placed correctly in the right spot. Because that's where your attention is going to go. Yeah, it's good to detail the fabric, have the right anatomy, and build your portrait correctly, but if you just do your focal point to the highest of your ability, all of the other details are secondary, and you could even leave them unfinished if you're feeling lazy. Okay, for this step, I'm going to move my reference photo and I'm going to line it up with my page because I want to make sure these measurements are right. I want to capture her likeness. I want to make sure this looks like her. It's one thing that's important when you're drawing someone specifically. Like, yeah, you can kind of be free if you're not drawing a specific person. Like if you're just taking reference from a photo and you're kind of creating something new, you're not worried about replicating this person's likeness, so you're just kind of maybe creating a new person or just freestyling or creating something new. Papa and Beer, hola, what's up? Gloria, this is Chanel. Oh God, how did I forget her name? I've memorized it before this. And Gabrielle Bonheur, Chanel Coco, creator of Chanel. Really iconic person. She did some amazing thing in fashion, perfumes. She could really draw people's attention in and capture your emotions through fashion and other things. So we got a lot going on up here. There's a lot of kind of nonsense with the marks that I've made so far, so we're going to take some of it back. when you block things in, there's a lot of marks that are maybe just kind of sketchy little searching marks. They're not too important always, but you lay them in to find your direction. Let's double check, make sure this chin is placed correctly. It does look like I originally placed it a little lower, and that was more correct than it was. Okay. So I'm going to draw one gesture that's going to go from the bottom of her chin, and it's just going to follow up to the top of her forehead. And then kind of right in the center of your eyes, you have this trapezoid looking shape in the center of your face where it just dips in. And then it extends out to the nose. And this goes past that gesture line that we made. Maybe it doesn't go in that far or out that far. Let's see, let's measure. Not too far off, it looks like. Wait, gotta make sure the paper's lined up, that's important. I'm gonna use the dots on my paper to make sure I have a straight line from my drawing to the reference photo. Looks good. Looks like it's placed right. Even though it may feel a little weird, that's okay. Maybe there's something else off if it feels weird. Like if you sense that something's off about it, there's probably something off, but it may not be one thing you pinpoint. Like it could be something else. So some things were a little wacky, so we're going to make sure we move things around to adjust to our previous adjustments. Some of these ink blots showing through, if they cause issues, we can get some white charcoal, maybe cover them up a little. It's kind of like makeup, covering up the blotches, the blemishes. Not too worried about it at this stage. So we're working through the lips right now. So from the tip of the nose, we go down maybe at like a 45, 35 degree angle. from the face, and then it juts back out a little bit below, but not even close to the amount that the nose juts out. But it still kind of points out. It comes back out from this curve. So we have two lips, make two little bumps. We'll extend the lips onto the face once we move on to further stages, but we're just worried about the outline right now. We're not worried about the details. And then from the bottom lip, it juts in, and then it juts back out towards the chin, where we can round it out and then tuck it under towards the neck. And then we know the bottom of the chin kind of lines up with the hair perfectly on the other side of the head, so we're going to line that up as well. And I can see my erased pencil marks. I placed it perfectly the first time. That's the challenge of drawing. You got to figure out what marks you've laid on paper are correct, what marks are incorrect, and you got to build a system to tell the difference between the two, because things get blurry really quickly when you're moving quickly or you're making a lot of judgments about your art. Especially when it's in the process, you kind of got to take a neutral standpoint. It's going to be rough in these beginning stages. It's going to be hard to look at. It's not going to be pretty like you want it to be, like a finished drawing. It takes some preparation. It takes some foundation to get to that finished final product that you're looking for. If you take some steps beforehand, before you even start drawing, before you think about drawing, you can really put some things in place to help you through the process, so you're not struggling the whole time, so you're not fighting and stressed out. It's supposed to be a pleasurable process. Okay, we kind of got some basic facial features in. So the next step, got a fruit fly flying around. The next step is we're gonna move through and add some shape to this hair. As you can see, it's non-existent. So we're just gonna block it in. Good enough. So now we're at the stage where we're past the blocking. We got a basic outline on paper, and we got a lot of other miscellaneous marks that may or may not be correct. So we're going to take an eraser and we're going to take some of those back, and we only want to leave correct marks on our paper. Some marks that are going to guide us further into the process of drawing. Whereas if we were to just leave some of these marks, you could easily get lost, or you could add details that maybe aren't supposed to be there. There's a really specific purpose as to why I moved through these steps. Because this is the foundation to your drawing. This is the building blocks that are going to allow you to create something that's three-dimensional and believable, that's going to look like a reference photo, that's going to feel like a reference photo. And not only that, it's going to be beautiful at the end of the process. If you just take these steps, have the patience, ASMR vibes with the process. Yeah, no music today. I kind of wanted to maybe get a little different feel, different vibe. Who knows? I could turn it on if I get bored, but I want to experiment with a lot of different things here on YouTube because I've been making YouTube videos for a long time, and that's the beautiful part about it, is you can kind of go in any direction you want to. The creative freedom is there, and I kind of like that this is my own thing. There's not a whole lot of artists out there doing exactly what I'm doing. And I also wanted to take maybe a little from Bob Ross, where it's just relaxing, maybe a little bit educational, but not like you're sitting in a classroom where you're bored out of your mind type education. Something you'd watch for fun is what I'm going for. So right now I'm only working inside the outline I drew, and I'm just erasing the armature marks I've made. I'm erasing the sketchy other light marks that may have been made, and we're gonna build a foundation that we're gonna move into this outline. We're gonna create all the shapes inside. We're gonna maybe lay out the outlines of the shading. We're gonna be thinking about how this form is in the 3D, if that makes sense. So at the end of the day, this is a person we're drawing, particularly a person with a lot of class, a high status in society. So we want to capture their intangibles, if that makes sense. Like the reason all these kings in history, or the queens, the reason they go to these artists and they pay them lots of money to paint them and to immortalize them into a work of art, is because this stuff captures character. You're really trying to encapsulate someone's aura, as new age as that sounds. But it is kind of crazy to think about that we have only just invented photos a few hundred years ago, 200, 300 years ago. Before that, everyone was just painting each other. Everyone was just drawing each other. That's all they had. They didn't have an easy square in their pocket where they could just snap an image of your face and keep it or print it or whatever. This is all new stuff. So I've kind of gained a liking to the old school way of capturing someone's character. Because sure, you can take a great you can take a great photo of someone, but in my eyes, that photo doesn't have the same value as, let's say, a painting that an artist spent a year on. So we got mostly all the bad marks erased. Got tons of noise from the ink leaking through. That's okay. We're gonna move inside this outline, and we're gonna start laying in shapes. The same process we've been doing, but inside. So I'm gonna start with this bottom line, connecting the hair to the face, that diagonally connects all the way across to the back of the neck. Kind of wraps around her face to the other side and creates some nice flowy shapes. One of the reasons why I selected this photo, I didn't even know who this is when I selected it, but just the shapes inside the hair, the shape of the hair, the fabric, not to mention she's gorgeous anyway. But just these different elements, they all combine and they create just a wonderful portrait. Something I'm looking for when I'm looking to draw someone. And I don't like to draw just everyone, because people will send me photos like, hey, draw me. And it'll be like a washed out photo that was taken on a razor phone, a flip phone. All the colors are washed out. There's no shadows. There's no detail. And they're like, draw me. I'm like, no. Yeah, the person you're drawing is way more important than the drawing yourself. So you want to make sure you choose that wisely. I guess I've kind of been aware of that sort of thing for a long time, but I don't think it's something other people are aware of. It's because, I don't know, not a lot of people draw portraits and they kind of just assume anything works. Okay, we're gonna continue, and I'm gonna stay up here in the top of the head, just laying in some of these shapes in the hair, and then I'll move down as we go. But one thing I want to make sure that's correct, or maybe not even correct, but just that feels right, is these flowing shapes inside the hair. I think that's something that adds a lot of character. It's a main feature of this portrait. It's something you cannot neglect. And if it's done right, it could really take this drawing to a special place, quality wise. I don't know how to articulate what I want to say right now, because it's such a unique thing to artists to capture someone's image in a way that's by hand through pencil. And I break things down into smaller elements, and I try to work those individual elements to their highest possible quality. And if you select certain elements and you choose those to really work on and like bring to that high quality, those individual elements take a work of art really, really far. And someone's hair is a big part of that. It's how people express themselves, especially women. There's a bug flying around. Yeah, so whatever you're working on, you just choose these elements, you choose specific things, and you break them down into simpler, um, more manageable shapes when you're working on them. Just like we did with the outline of this, right? So you start with a just basic rectangle shape, trapezoid, whatever it is. And then you just slowly refine it until it's where you want it to be. And when you're doing that, it's also really important to kind of not bounce around from element to element inside your drawing. It can be good to do that in different phases. Like you can bounce from each stage of the drawing like really quickly if you know how to do it and you know what you're working on and how to articulate it. Then you can like bounce around and just like work on the whole entire piece at one time. But when you're working through some complex elements, just stick to one area. Just work it out until you think it cannot be improved anymore, or there's maybe just not any more mistakes in it. And then move on. Because right now, I've got general idea of the hair laid out in lines, right? That's where we're at in the process. Not thinking about shading, not thinking about building it up in the 3D yet. We're just thinking about how these different lines intersect, they interact with each other and flow through the piece. And her anatomy and different elements of the anatomy. That's all we're worried about. So from here, got the hair laid in. Kind of think about the ear in there, right in the center of the head. That's important. So we're going to move on, building these facial features, laying in different anatomical features. So that's another thing that's helpful to know when you're drawing portraits is how the anatomy lays in the position that they're sitting or moving, whatever the references that you're drawing. It's important to take into account what's happening below the surface of the skin, because the skin, it only tells you so much. It was a mosquito, motherfucker. Oh my god, I've never seen a mosquito here. My girlfriend has always told me that there's mosquitoes here, and I've lived here for like 2 years. I've never ever seen a mosquito. Wow. And I just killed one. I feel pretty proud of myself. You should feel pretty proud of yourself too, Amber. Because now I believe you, because I killed one. Okay. Where are we at? Stream's still good. What do you recommend for beginners who are interested in painting? I think if you want to paint, start here. Start with the pencil, because if you learn how to draw, drawing is the same basic skill that you're going to be using while you're painting. especially in the beginning stages when you're articulating this kind of stuff in your painting. You're just drawing. It's just it's drawing. So if you learn how to draw, you learn how to paint, and if you learn how to paint, it makes you better at drawing. Everything kind of connects and builds on each other. I know that seems like a lot, and it is, but it's worth it. Painting's a lot of fun. Drawing's a lot of fun. Both of them are balancing skills. So this even extends if you want to make a sculpture. You can't make a sculpture unless you know how to like draft and you know how to draw. Well, you can make a sculpture, but it might not be very good. But if you want to like design something and create something that's like new and unique, it all starts on paper. Just about any field you look to doing, like it all starts on paper. Like you want to make clothes, make fashion, you got to draw it. Or you want to make a building, you want to design architecture, like starts on paper. And then this extends like so far beyond that. Into even like other things that are maybe not so creative. Like if you want to make a business plan, or you have like goals you want to achieve in work or whatever, like you gotta design a plan. You gotta put it on paper. It may not be through like an articulate drawing like you may envision, but gotta put it on paper. Doesn't have to look good either. Just has to be understandable, coherent. Okay, now that the mosquito debacle is over, we're gonna continue moving through this face. One of the main core shadows that I see comes from the bottom of this chin, and it's gonna fade up here into the cheekbone. This kind of extends all the way up here, but it starts down here, and it's gonna define the jaw. We're not gonna think about it too much because it's not a hard line. It's more of just like a smooth tone. It's just in shadow, and it blends up into the cheekbone very softly. So if you see something that's soft in your reference photo, don't draw a hard line on it. Just think about this process that I'm showing you and how you're just piecing things together and just laying things out in a simple manner. So before we articulate some of these features in the face, I want to go down into the neck, and I just want to be thinking about some of this anatomy because I think it's important. It's secondary, but it needs to be articulated, even if it isn't expressly or definitively shown. Just got to keep in mind that this is a person we're drawing, so they have anatomy, they have things going on underneath their skin. They got a lot of different tendons and esophaguses. Different little things. There's a lot of different complex architecture that goes on inside your neck alone. And if you know how it all connects, it makes for some beautiful art. So one of the things that's important is, let's show it on myself. So I have my collarbone right here. Right in the nape of your neck, you have both of these little collarbone bumps. I don't know if you have them. I have mine. They're like kind of pronounced, but you you have these, I think they're tendons, they extend up into your neck and then behind your ear. Let's see if I can show it off a little better. But it gets bigger up here and it just becomes very small and just connects to this bone, and then it kind of enlarges and it just goes behind your ear. It's a very structural and like main part of your neck that shows a lot of form. So we're just gonna lightly pen that in, and we know that that little tendon goes behind the ear, kind of connects to like a ball behind your ear, if you want to think about it simply. And then we know this goes down to the collarbone, so the collarbone's just right here. It's a soft gradient shadow right there. And then this robe just extends over it. It's just all about layers. Like when you're studying the masters, one of the things that I can't remember who said this, but one of the things I've heard is you're not gonna just draw somebody's clothes and not think about the anatomy underneath. Like you're gonna draw the anatomy underneath, and you're gonna think about how the bone, how the skin is laying, and then you draw the clothes over. So if you just draw like the fabric, it's gonna look flat, it's gonna look boring. But if you think about the structure, the bones, how they connect, everything is connected. I don't know. I'm an anatomy nerd. I love just articulating that stuff and bringing it into my art, especially when I'm drawing people, because it just always seems to work. What am I trying to say? No, it looks amazing when it's done right, is what I'm trying to say. So I try to go to the extra mile when it comes to the anatomy. We got some extra marks in here. I kind of don't like this little splotch right where the lip is gonna lay. Oh no, what happened to my charcoal? I mean, I guess since there is ink all over my paper, I could make this an ink drawing, which makes my life a little easier, because then I don't have to worry too much about these little imperfections. So we're just gonna lay in the lips. And then the nose. You go from the outline, and then you got to make sure to bring it onto the face. Like it's easy. It would be easy to just like draw like the edge of the nose right where you think it would be, but no, you gotta put it onto the face. Maybe let's zoom in a touch, so you guys can see what I'm doing a little better. Oh wow. Okay. The setup I have is so pieced together. Okay, that's a little better. We're focused on the face right now, so we're gonna stay in this little area. So we have the edge of the nose on the face. Not too far on the face though. Then we're going to place this nostril. We just want it to be visible, not too much, because it's a core shadow, but it's inside this shadow, so it's just kind of going to recede, fade away a little bit. You see it, but you don't see it too much. Same with this bottom lip. You see it, but you know, you don't see a hard dark line. And we're going to carry this nose, sharpen our outline, and bring it up the face. And then roll it over the top of the forehead. We have a little eyebrow peeking through from the other side. Just going to make sure that's lightly visible. Now we're going to move to this eye closest to us. And we're going to begin to articulate this eye socket. I'm going to start at the top of the eyebrow. Just pretty close to the edge of the face. It's really not far in. We're going to block in where the eye is going to be. Just laying in a pretty basic shape of where eyebrow is going to lay, where the eye socket is. And we're going to see if we placed it correctly. As you may or may not be able to see. You cannot see. Okay, so I have the reference photo lined up, and it's pretty far off. Which is why we take these measurements, because it is just too easy to get something wrong. As you can see, I was placing things too far up. It's not that far up. I'm gonna move it down a little bit. You gotta double check yourself. You're not always correct. You're human. And again, we're going to do the same thing, except for we're going to place it in the correct spot now. And then we're going to take away the marks we made above it, because there's nothing really up there. That's the forehead. Oh, that's an ink splotch. Man, one of these days I'm gonna get a higher quality setup for these videos, and it's not gonna be 480p. It's not gonna be this terrible of quality. You guys will actually be able to see what I'm doing, and it'll be exciting. Okay, so I got the basic placement of the eye. We're just gonna lay in a basic shape. We're not gonna detail this. We're not gonna go crazy in this area trying to perfect it. We're just getting the shape. Same idea as the hair. This gives us the freedom to make all the mistakes that we want. One of the main messages I have is just fail, mess up, put things in the wrong spot, make a mistake, try and get things wrong. And then from that initial failure, you can say, hey, this is how I need to improve, this is where I need to go, and this is how I'm gonna get there. And then you do it, and you get to where you want to be. You learn how to draw just by fucking up. So just like that, this whole top of the half of the portrait has its foundation. I don't know why I'm having trouble speaking right now, but we have the foundations laid in the top half of this portrait. So we're going to continue, and we're going to move through the fabric, and we're going to build the rest of this drawing using the same process that we have so far. Okay, I just gotta get everything back to where it was. Nice. So, using the same process we have been using up until this point, we're going to go through and we're going to work through the anatomy. We're going to work through the fabric. And lay in these shapes. And we've done all of this with a 2H pencil. Now, to show you a difference, the standard 2B, let's show you. This is a 2B. I have in my gloved hand. It's dark marks. This is your average pencil that you're going to get anywhere. So the difference between those two is large. So if you're working with a soft pencil that's going to create dark marks easier, you can use that, and you can say, hey, maybe I'll make some lighter marks. Maybe I won't go so deep with the pressure that I'm putting on my paper. Because if you have a soft pencil, I mean, it's going to be easier to create those darker marks. And if it's the only thing you have, you can just say, hey, I'm going to be a little bit more patient. I'm going to work out some of this stuff going very lightly over my details, my sketch through the early phases of a drawing. And then as you progress, as you slowly build out the details, the different things inside of an artwork, you can progressively get darker and darker. And if you get some pencils, like these are like $2 a piece, buy 10 of them, move through all of the different hardnesses of the graphite. Ideally, like the way I was taught in this drawing atelier was you spend a good amount of time with each and every one of the pencils throughout the scale, throughout your drawing process. So you should go through the whole scale of them. I'm not saying you have to do this, but it's just an example of how much time you can put in with a single pencil. Like we're 1 hour into this drawing live stream, fit one single pencil. So this process really could take hundreds of hours. You could spend such a long period of time just developing, working through details, not worrying about your mistakes. But if you're that patient with it, you can do some incredible things. Yes, it's the Mona Lisa's mom, Melonhead. What's up? I see you. So if you find yourself with a pencil in hand, working through an idea you have in your mind, just work through the process. Don't rush yourself. Give it time. Let yourself make mistakes. It really is inevitable. Everyone makes these kind of mistakes. But you can realize that, and you can say, hey, I just have to see my mistakes and then correct them, and then all is well. So, with that being said, I think the shoulders may not be correctly placed completely. So, we're gonna dive a little deeper. We're gonna lay some of this architecture, if you will, and we're gonna build out this anatomy like I was talking about a little bit ago. So the arms are pretty simple, right? Especially your upper arm. What is it called? Oh God, I'm really bad with the names. I know the anatomy. I know how it looks. I know how it feels. I don't know the names. I should probably know the names, but I don't. Yeah, it's just a long skinny bone. It's like your femur in your leg. And then your forearm, then it starts to get a little bit more complex because you got, let's see, you got these bones. You got two bones, your tibia and fibula. Is that your leg? I think that might be your leg. I think I got that wrong. Anyway, you have these two bones in your arm, right? You have your arm flat like this. They kind of run parallel alongside each other. And then if you turn your hand, these two bones kind of wrap around each other inside of your arm, and they really blend together beautifully. And if you're able to see this kind of just flow inside of the anatomy, that just comes with studying some of this stuff. It just creates some amazing effects. You'll be creating like Michelangelo in no time. that's really the extent of some of these great masters' greatness is they took the anatomy, they learned it to the highest possible level. They were dissecting cadavers and they were figuring out all these little different tendons and muscles and how they connect and flow together. And then they included it in their artwork, and it just blows you away because it's incredibly lifelike. So I'm not saying you have to take it to that extent, but I am saying you do have to know the basic forms of these anatomy to articulate them on paper, at least effectively. It's easy to get things wrong if you don't. So, have this bone that connects the top of your shoulder to your elbow. We know this is pretty straight, so if we curve it or if we do weird things with it, it may feel off and it may throw your entire artwork off, and all the work you did to perfect the portrait maybe sidestepped by a anatomy mishap. So if maybe if you don't know this stuff, you can leave it blank. Sometimes the unfinished look is what people prefer. It's kind of the artistic feel to a painting or even a drawing, just to leave something unfinished. Or not a complete artwork, but maybe just an area. Like you don't have to articulate something that's maybe at the bottom of the page or not a main focus of the piece. So I drew the elbow off. That can be important. I want to make sure I get the flow right, or the architecture right. Because the anatomy flows through your fabric, it's creating shapes, even if it is not shown directly through skin. So if fabric is covering skin, the anatomy still shows through. Like you can still see like the effects of different bones and different things, even though it's covered up by fabric and skin or anything else. Yeah. I don't want to harp on it too much. I've kind of been harping on it a lot already. It's secondary, it's important, but not the main focus. And finding placements, some of these different elements, whether it's fabric or an anatomical detail, all of this is made so much easier just by that initial step that I took, that is getting my reference photo. It really can make your life so much easier if you just take some preparation. Trace it if you have to. Then you don't have to spend 4 hours trying to figure out where things are placed. because the placement, the proportions, all that stuff is important. It's good to get it right, but it shouldn't have to be a teeth pulling process. It shouldn't have to be a highly difficult thing. So we're going to go back up to the shoulders because, like I said, I don't think they were placed perfectly, and I just want to move through them, and I want to double check them. So I'm going to line my reference photo up again so it lines up with my drawing, because it's not taped down. Ideally, you could tape it down, and then it wouldn't move, and you could just move freely. Wow, I didn't even realize how much the table shakes when I touch it. It's a good thing my microphone is not connected to the table. That would be a huge issue. Right, moving through the shoulders. So to move through the shoulders, we're going to move back to the center, back to the nape of the neck, right? Because this is the center point. It's where everything comes together in the middle, and we kind of already have that place. So we have a good idea that this is in an accurate spot, so we're gonna extend our reach out, and we're gonna make sure it's right where it's supposed to be. And we can place the anatomy that maybe has not been laid in. Okay. So we go to the nape of the neck. And then we're looking for this collarbone, this little bump. This extends, the side. This extends all the way out to this little bump, not on the edge of your shoulder, but let's see. You can see it. This little bump right here. This is where your collarbone ends, and then your shoulder begins. This nice circle on the outside represents that. So this collarbone extends out, and it kind of goes to the top of the shoulder. And then we have the shoulder here. Maybe it's not an exact straight line, but we're just forming things. It's okay. It's actually pretty curved. It's a nice and rounded bone, but just for this sake, we're lining things up. So we're going to extend it all the way to the other side. Looks pretty good. So that's an example of, you may see an issue. You might see something or feel something wrong with your work of art. But it may be not the exact thing you pinpoint wrong with it. So I saw maybe there was something wrong in the shoulders, and you double check it and there's not anything wrong. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something that's secondary. Like maybe the fabric hasn't been laid in, so it looks a little weird or a little janky. At least in this arm and shoulder anyway, so just a good example. Don't be too hard on your work of art. It's in process. And it can be easily ruined if you spend too much time judging it, thinking that it's not good. I understand. You want to create something good. You want to create something beautiful. But if you get hung up on it and you think your work of art that is in progress is not beautiful, or it's ugly, or there's mistakes or different things, it automatically just removes the possibility of you ever finishing it or even creating something good out of it. It's all about the patience, building it up over time. It's not a great trait to have, to be judgmental anyway. It's something I prefer to remove from myself. Because if you're spending all this time in your head judging people or judging things or their appearance or, I don't know, just different things, it can ruin some opportunities for you. Because things are not always as they appear on the surface, and you often have to look for much longer to see something's true appearance, their true shape and form. And if you kill it by saying, oh, they're ugly, they're, I don't even know, like they're fat, they're whatever the judgment may be, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's all just judgment. It's unneeded. And then when I see other people who have the trait that is non-judgmental behavior, what's the word I'm looking for? When I see someone who is non-judgmental, it's just such a pleasing thing to look at someone as if like they have no flaws or they have no real issues. Then you can actually see them for who they are because you're not worried about something that doesn't matter in the first place. We're cooking on this drawing. We're in a good spot. So finish the outline. We've done some work on the inside. We've laid in some lines, some shapes, some form, some shadows, the light. We're deciphering where those different things are placed. Now, in this next step, we're going to begin laying in the shadow, moving through articulating details, and we're really going to start to refine things from here. Because up until this process, we've been loose. We've been kind of free. I haven't worried about making too much mistakes. So we are now beginning to move past that, and we're going to begin detailing. So to start off, I got one of these black wing pencils. Just for time's sake, I'm not going to be moving through the whole pencil scale of hardnesses. This guy, nice and soft. You can create a broad range of values with it very quickly. You could create a whole drawing just with this guy. One of the best pencils you can buy. They don't deserve that shout out because they haven't paid me. So Blackwing, sponsor me. You better. Yeah, no, I love these. These are the best pencils money can buy, and they're really not that expensive either. So pick some of these up. Good stuff. So beginning, I'm just gonna move through the outline again, and we're gonna darken it up, cement it into place. And then we'll move through the shadows. we'll start connecting everything. So instead of sticking to the outside, the complete outline, we're gonna just move through the whole piece. And if you decide to go through this phase too early, it can cause some issues because we are all prone to making mistakes. And if you have mistakes in this stage, they're going to end up in the final drawing, which may or may not be a good thing. Wait a second. Let's check on my print. Okay, it's done. Let's get it. We got a little knight. I'm only showing you this because I want to start the next one. These things take a very long time to print, but I'm just so hyped on how they're coming out. Really good. One second. Oh, wow. I don't know why. Here's how the bottom is supposed to look. I don't know why I messed up the bottom so much and then it just printed the rest perfectly. It's okay. Okay, thank you for your patience. I just had to make sure that gets started correctly because, as you can see, the bottom, for whatever reason, just doesn't want to print correctly. So if it gets started, it goes good. Now we got to keep moving. I don't want to spend a crazy amount of time working through this drawing. I want to make it good. I want to make a beautiful work of art, but I don't want to be here for 4 hours. So we got to get moving. So we're going to lay out some of these lines. We're going to be mindful of the anatomy underneath. We're going super ASMR mode because I was still hearing the machine, or not hearing, but I was seeing it through my meter on the mic. But anyway, right now I'm kind of disregarding some of those initial marks that I made. And I'm just going with what feels right. Some of this fabric. That's okay. There's lots of little tiny details inside this area. It's like little lace areas that connect to the silky, soft fabric on the outside. I just want to make sure it feels right. Right now, we got a sharp pencil. You want to make sure, if you're working for this long, that you're not sitting working through details with a dull pencil. You want to be the sharpest tool in the shed. Because if your pencil is even just a little bit dull, the marks you're placing on the paper can they can be placed differently. What is the term I'm looking for? The marks you're attempting to place on paper will go in a different spot than you intend them to be, because you don't have a nice sharp tip on the end where you can articulate these little details. So especially if you're working with something soft, it doesn't take long for you to smooth out the tip. So just be mindful of how it feels. Think about, put your full focus and attention on the tip of your pencil as you're making these marks on your paper. Because like I said before, this is when things start to get cemented. You start putting things onto your paper that are permanently going to be there, so you want them to at least be accurate. And when you're doing this and you're moving through these lines, like through here in the neck, for example, you can use hard edges to really define the shapes that you're putting on the paper. So the smooth, curvy lines, they don't read as well as these, I don't want to say harsh, because they're not exactly harsh, but they're hard angles. And they're visibly more readable if they're not perfectly smooth, even though in the reference it's perfectly smooth, but this is kind of a little tiny page. It's a small drawing. It's not big. You're not going to pack a whole lot of detail on it. So we're going to make some slight adjustments, some slight changes just to the structure. Not even to the structure, but we're going to make some, we're going to take some creative liberty, if you will. Because this is the stage where you start, you're going through your reference photo, and you begin to extend your drawing past the reference photo, and you have to take creative liberty to develop your drawing as a work of art beyond your reference photo. Because at the end of the day, this is just a little printed piece of paper. Yeah, it looks good, but sooner rather than later, your drawing will become better than your reference photo, and it will become a reliable source to the original piece of content. Now, some of these hard lines that I'm making, especially on this far side of the portrait and even the face, um, these lines are not going to be defined by this dark, harsh line at the end of the day. Or, I mean, they could be. It might look good if you leave them like that. Man, my throat is killing me. But just kind of a lesson in realism. That hard, dark line isn't going to be there because it's defined by the light hitting this side. You don't see a dark, hard line over there. You have light hitting this shoulder, this arm, this side of her torso. And then it's defined by that light neighboring this neutral background. So this dark line doesn't exactly exist there. So that's something you can add. You can not add it. You can define it by the light, which will make it appear more realistic, more real to life. But you know, maybe you're drawing and you say, "Hey, I want this to kind of feel a little bit more like a cartoon or maybe a tattoo where there are a lot of hard, dark lines like that." It's coming out great though. I'm happy with where we're at. Happy with the time frame. We're 2 hours in. Moving, but moving slowly. Amber says, Chick-fil-A. Are you hungry? Yeah, I am. Thank you, Amber. That's so random. Okay. We gotta keep going. I can't be focusing on random people calling my phone. Um, where are we at? This is starting to reach a decision point where I could hit this with ink and finish this drawing with ink because I haven't put a whole lot of shading in. Haven't added a whole lot of depth yet. So we're reaching a decision point. But I'm kind of thinking that I like the softness of this portrait. I like these gradients that I originally chose this reference photo for. So I think to be able to articulate that accurately, I am going to need to finish it with pencil. So I'm going to do that. But things are always up in the air. You don't always have to work with one medium. You can always switch between. Like, if this wasn't on a piece of my black book paper that's super thin and kind of dainty pieces of paper, if it's on a thicker piece of paper, I could hit it with some gouache. I could paint this. This is at the perfect stage to just move through all these different values. If it was a painting, if I wanted to take it there. You have the creative liberty to make some of those different decisions for yourself, because those different decisions define your work of art. They really take your wow, I'm quite quiet. I hope I'm not too quiet. Super clean print. Thank you, Papa and Beer. I appreciate you. Hope you guys can hear me. Let me know if my microphone is too quiet, too ASMR mode. I'll turn it up. I'm new to the streaming thing. This isn't something I have a lot of experience with. And you, the viewer, tagging along with me, I appreciate you coming along with this journey that I'm on. I see you. I appreciate you guys hanging out, watching me develop these. Even if you're not watching live, you probably should be watching. These are actually meant for people who watch them after, but if you're watching this after in the future, I still appreciate you. I'm still grateful for your support. They're meant for people to watch these in the future because as you may know, I jump around a lot. I go off and I decide to restart a print, or I may not be the most entertaining 100% of the time throughout this entire thing. So if you want to come back in the future and you want to jump past the parts where I cut out for a second or I take a break, save it for later. If you haven't already, just make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you share this video on social media. Make sure your friends, your family, anyone who's interested in art, really helps me out a lot. It takes things to the next level. Maybe it'll even upgrade this stream to 4K one of these days. Who knows? But your support is really the reason why I even get to do this in the first place, because I wouldn't be here without you. I wouldn't be making these videos if there wasn't someone watching. And someone supporting, like my friends and family from the very beginning. They have always taken the time of day, given me what I need to succeed. And I think that's really awesome that people really go out of their way to make sure I keep doing what I'm doing. It's good. It's good because the art I make, it's not temporary. This stuff will last a long time. Hopefully it'll even outlast you and I. But by supporting me, you're supporting all the people in the future who will see the things I create 50, 100, 200 years from now. I think that's really awesome to think about. Just the magnitude of these things I create. Because yeah, it may seem small. It may seem like only a little drawing or a little painting, whatever I'm working on in the moment, but it's really much more than that. So I'm going to go into this eye, and I'm going to begin to lay in these different lines that make up the eyelid, the eye, the iris, maybe the lower eyelid. But again, here, simple is better. If you go too hard here, if you spend a lot of time trying to make it perfect or trying to reach perfection, it will be to your detriment. Because it is a silhouette, so this is something you're seeing from the side. You're not looking directly into her eyes. You're looking at it from an indirect viewpoint. Which means all these details inside are going to be super soft. They're not going to be razor sharp and defined. And this little iris is just a small oval that's going to be a flat black shade. It's not a whole lot of detail. It's not a whole lot going on. It's super simple. You don't even see the pupil. You don't see a highlight. At most, you see the far end of her eyelid. The what is the word I'm looking for? The eyelid towards the corner of her eye. So like maybe you see the little highlight of that in there. But other than that, it's simple. It's basic. But now that I have that sort of laid in, it's defined, it's in. I'm going to lightly shade it, because even at this point, you don't exactly know if you've made a mistake or messed something up. So if you go straight to permanence, as dark of a black as you can go, it's pretty hard to reverse out of that cleanly. So just be mindful of the marks you're making, the decisions that are taking place. And then all of this is in shadow. That just extends into her hair. Ooh. My throat is dry. So I'm gonna work through this face, and then I'm gonna go try to find some charcoal, and I'm gonna try to cover up some of these splotches. Hopefully, I can get some of them covered up. Especially this one right here, because that's really the only one that's causing issues. But if not, it's really okay. All art has imperfections. Maybe small little issues. But hey, We live in the future. We have Photoshop. You can just crop that out in a photo editing program. So now we have everything mainly laid in. And the last thing to really do is to begin shading. Which is the fun part. Because all this stuff, all the preparation we've taken, this is when it comes to a point. This is when things start to come alive. Your shapes start to connect, to create forms, to create depth. And your drawing starts to become more of a person and less of a couple lines on a piece of paper. That's why it's very, very crucial to keep your judgment aside, because it doesn't take shape until the end of the process. Everything we've done is done very, very specifically for a purpose. It's all designed to bring us up to this exact point. Which is a beautiful work of art. And it's really unfortunate when this beautiful work of art gets killed before it even takes off or even takes shape. Because you don't even know what you're going to create until you create it, until after you create it. And you've taken time to reflect on what you have created. Because very often, I'll create something, even something amazing, and I won't like it. I will, in fact, dislike it. I would, like, there are times where I would burn my art if I could. But I try my best not to, because I know if I just wait, if I look at it in the future, I'm going to be able to see it in a different light. I'm going to see it with fresh eyes. I'm not going to be so judgmental. I'm going to be able to see it like somebody who is seeing it for the first time. Which is important. You got to be able to step away. You got to take a break. Go look at something else. Go touch some grass for a while. And then come back. Then come work on it. But if you sit here, you get in a 5, 6, 7, 10-hour painting session, a drawing session, you easily lose sight of what you're working on. It's because you've been looking for so long. And you're not able to see it accurately or see it how it truly is. Okay, I'm gonna continue to move throughout this hair, and I'm gonna block it in as light as I can with this black wing. I gotta stop saying their name. I feel like I should just tape this off and just not say their name until they pay me. um, anyway, yeah, we're just blocking this in. I'm looking to wrap forms around their shape, if that makes sense. So I'm looking to their darkest shadows. I'm filling in neutral space with this light, soft shade, and I'm just filling in space. And then I'm finding dark core shadows and I'm adding them in. But mostly I'm just laying in this neutral tone. And I'm identifying shapes. As I'm identifying them, I'm not worried about making them full 3D yet. Just blocking in their shadows. Blocking in the neutral tones. It really is as simple as that first step we were taking where we block things in. Very simple, very basic, simple forms, simple shapes. Don't overcomplicate it. Make it as simple as you in your head as you possibly can. And if you're not sure about something, if you think you're lost or you think something may be off or askew, you can always block it in with a neutral tone, right? Just shade it, make it flat, just fill it in. And then once you move through your piece, you come back, you have a beautiful eraser, you erase the highlights, you make sure those are correct, and then you go back to your shadows. You darken those. You get those more full, more defined. Because there's a lot of different moving pieces in hair. There's a lot of different flows and different elements. And if you get hung up on anything, if you draw something and you redraw it over and over again, it's easy to get lost. But if you just block it in, come back to it, it's possible that initial block in of the neutral tone will get you very close to where it should be. And then that trip through with your eraser, finding the highlights, will take it home. It'll really get it close to where you want it. Okay, we're going to continue through this because I am not far off to where I want to be. And I don't want to lose sight. I don't want to get distracted here. I just want to keep moving. Because if I stop, if I get distracted, if I go try to find a white charcoal piece of Conte stick, I may not ever come back to finish what I am working on right now, which would be a tragedy because you always gotta bring your art to its completion. Like, work something out to its end. Don't leave it unfinished. Like, go as far as you possibly can with what you're working on. And then stop. Then you can get distracted. You can go do something else after that, but just go as far as you can. When you're working on something, anything, whether you're driving or whatever, you do it for a good amount of time, let's say a couple hours, without any distraction, anything else in your way. You get into this flow state. You start to be completely present in the moment. And this is optimal for creating art because this helps you find exactly where you are. This helps you find your mistakes, find the issues, to move forward, to progress something to its ideal state. But once you break it, once you lose that focus, it takes that same amount of time to get it back, to get that level of intention, that focus back on track to where it was. So if you're starting and stopping all the time, it's just like getting lost. And ideally, if you can, you want to avoid it at all costs. And that's when it becomes like you're just like a Zen Buddhist monk trying to remain completely focused. And then you can get in these 8-hour painting sessions. You can get in these long, in-depth processes of creation where you're totally there, you're fully present, you're creating incredible art with ease. Okay, let's see. I see the mistake I made. So these 3 lines down here, the first ones I started out with, as I began to outline this, I think they're pretty far off. And we're just going to X them out before I continue. These lines are important because they shape the torso, shape the breasts. It's really important to create that shapes, and then these shadows on the other side define everything else. So I think if those are correct, I will be in good standing. Beautiful. Okay. I have a last little bit of shadows to move through. Ideally, I would just want to cover my paper, right? So you know how I said drawing is like painting? This is when you start painting on your paper. Just get a neutral value over the empty space. So we're going to begin, and we're going to fill this in. While I'm filling this in, my only real concern is just how smooth the graphite I am laying on the surface is. Because like I said, I'm just looking to cover it. I want it to be soft. I want it to be smooth. I don't want there to be a whole lot of hard edges. I don't want it to be hard to look at. And then everything on this side lays in the light. We can erase some stuff over here. really define our light source through the gradients we've just created. And sometimes with the shadows you've created, there's a hard edge in between the shadow and the light, so sometimes maybe you want to remove that line in between them and you want to make a gradient in between the two. Not always, but sometimes. Okay, there's still more to do. Still shadows to darken. There's still much more to do. We're closing in on 3 hours. I'm going to take a short break. And then we're going to finish this drawing. So, if you're live watching this, I appreciate you. I love you. You're amazing. If you're watching this in the future, I'll see you in a second. What's going on, guys? We're back. I looked for charcoal. I ate some food. I don't have anything on my face. Excuse you. And I think I managed to fix the problem. I was talking about gouache earlier. I don't have any more charcoal, so that's stellar. I just kind of used it like whiteout. And that kind of helped. I mean, it's see-through kind of a little bit. I mean, I guess I could maybe put like a dot. Oh, shit, that's too much. Okay, let's try this again. My only thing, though, is I want it to be smooth. I don't want to be able to see it. I think it's okay. When it dried, it kind of blended back a little bit, so I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think we're chilling. I think we got plenty of work to do. But I solved the only major problem I had with this piece. And I know I only said I wanted to work on this for a couple hours. But when you have a work of art and you like it, spend the time on it. It's worth it. And I'm in the last stage of this drawing, so I don't take too much of an issue spending time just to develop some of these shadows, to develop this piece a little more. I think it's totally, completely worth it. I like the piece. I like the portrait. I like how it's coming out. Man, it really is the ASMR episode. My mic is so low right now. Okay. We're cooling. I got my cat. My cat is cooling. We're booling. Oh. He's too wild to be contained. You know, I was just saying I like this piece. I like how it's coming out. And when you go through this process, effectively developing these shadows start out as neutral, semi-dark tones, and then you develop them and develop them and develop them, and slowly over time they get a lot better very quickly. And when you first lay them in, you kind of get a general idea of what it's going to look like, how it's going to feel. And then as you go darker, you don't want to go too dark, but as you go darker, that contrast adds everything you need. And you can fluctuate to harder or softer pencils to build out the gradient, to move the line between a shadow and a highlight. You can blend them out. Remove that line in between the two. Create a consistent patterning. Not patterning. What's the word I'm looking for? Covering. You're trying to cover your paper smoothly with graphite. If you move back to a hard pencil, you can really begin to fill in some of those open spots without going too far, without making it too contrasty or adding something that shouldn't be in there. And it's perfect because if I want to define this anatomy in the neck like I talked about before, it's really easy just to softly put that in, to move through those lines that I initially added. To create some subtlety. I think my main focus now is to move throughout the hair. Really build the contrast in here, define the details, build out the shadows. And then I'm going to quit while I'm ahead because I don't want to go too far. The worst thing in the world is when you're developing a piece and it's going good, it's going great. And then you just take it too far, take it a little too far. You do a little more than you probably should, and then you end up ruining the piece because you do too much. With these core shadows, I like to, you start at the line, the outline you created, and you work to that darkness. So you make it, you make that outline you created, and you integrate it in with your shadow so you can no longer see that outline, and that outline becomes part of the piece instead of a separate line on the outside. This is a good time to plug. If you haven't already, head over to my website. And on the homepage, not the homepage, the second page, you will see that I do free drawings. So if you have an idea and you want me to draw it, I will draw it for free. And if you want the drawing, all you have to do is pay shipping. It's $9.99. Practically nothing. You get the artwork. All the art I create is automatically NFT'd. So you get a free drawing, you get an NFT worth God knows how much. Especially as time passes, it's only going to increase in value. So you get a physical, tangible work of art. You get the non-tangible asset worth cryptocurrency. And all you got to pay is shipping. It's the deal of the century. If you don't do that, I don't know what you're doing. I only accept the ones I like, though. So if you submit a bad idea, I'm just going to say nah. So submit something cool, and I'll draw it. So I'm continuing to work through the hair, building these shadows. While I'm building these shadows, I'm taking care to move with the flow of the hair while I'm creating the shadows. And I'm also just adding some lines here and there to work with that flow, to build some of these little shapes inside the hair, because there's not a whole lot of detail inside shadows. So you're not seeing a whole crazy amount of hair, individual hairs, or even chunks of hairs, but here and there, it will peek through. You can see them occasionally, so we're going to add those details sparingly. But the main focus is just building these core shadows, going as dark as I want to go, and hopefully finishing this work. Because ideally, I want to refine the face as much as I possibly can. And I'm probably going to leave the rest of this portrait just undefined like it is. The neutral tones. I don't want to go too crazy with the shadows, right? Because these drawings, at the end of the day, they're studies. So this is just an educational experience. And then if I do a drawing I fall in love with, I'll paint it. These are just foundation blocks for a painting or a larger work of art. Because 3 hours in, this is not a crazy amount of work, but it's a building block. So if I want to spend 100 hours on a painting, I usually choose something I've drawn, something I've had experience with. Usually, if somebody commissions something too, I spend a lot of time in my sketchbook. I study the things I want to paint because if I paint something, I want it to be good. And usually, if you don't take the time to work out your drafts, your paintings usually won't translate, or maybe they'll be unfinished, unresolved, or incomplete. So it's worth it. It's worth it spending a lot of time in the sketchbook, developing, designing, working through details. Making changes, making mistakes, all that stuff. just part of the process. And it requires time. You can't do this stuff without dedicating your time. It's not possible. But that's another reason why I love doing this live stream, is it just gives me an avenue to create and spend the time with the people watching, you guys. Gives me a chance to talk about my creations, to develop things right in front of your eyes so there's no mystery about it. To teach you how to do it yourself if you want to do it. But you guys have your own lives. This is my path. You have yours. And you know what? You can just pay me to create for you. Given the time, I can do some amazing things. Look at that. The gouache is just like whiteout. I'm not sure if I like how it appears up here right now, but I think it'll keep blending in. Ideally, it will keep blending in. Oh. Let's, I found a spot on the forehead that needs to be touched up. Nice. I'm gonna hit a 9H, which is the hardest pencil I have. And I'm gonna go around this outline that I have made on the outside. And I'm gonna bring this background into a nice neutral gradient. We're just gonna fill it in. Because I want the light source in this portrait. I want that to come forward more so than this rough, inky background that is pure white. So this is gonna make this drawing feel more like a old photograph than a unfinished drawing. And it's so soft. It's not soft. It's so hard that it's gonna not put practically any graphite onto the paper. So all the work that we put into this portrait won't go anywhere. But I'm just looking to cover the surface. I want it to be smooth. I want there to be no holes. Just softly covered. Then this other side is so dark with the hair that I could realistically just color half of this in and leave the other half. There's still a few more things to do. I don't want to abandon this one just yet. I want to continue to develop some of these details. There's always more to do. But the question is, should you do it? Now it's the ASMR hour for real. Just continuing to move through these shapes. And I'm looking to just wrap them around the head. Just adding shapes to all these different swirls inside each individual shape in the hair. I'm looking to just add a gradient in between the core shadows, the darkest parts, and the lightest. And then cover any areas that are too light. And I'm going to move along this outside edge where this dark outline is. And I'm just going to lightly erase where a highlight meets that outside edge. So that the only thing bordering the background and the foreground is light. And while I'm at it, I'm going to move through the hair and just define the highlights in the hair. just looking to become, or I'm just looking to brush the outside edge of these highlights. It's important not to take these too far. That sounds interesting. Okay, now, before I take this piece too far, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna say I'm happy with what I've done, and I'm not gonna develop this piece anymore. I'm gonna leave the rest of this semi-unfinished. I could go through and detail all the clothes, but I like the face being the main focal point. So I'm thinking that's gonna be it for this one. Let's see. Okay. I want to get you guys a closer look at the finished product. I want to thank you guys for joining me on this journey to create a beautiful work of art. I'm very pleased with how this one turned out. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you like this video. If you go through and like all my other videos, I am eternally grateful as well. All that stuff really helps me reach more people, helps me make more videos, get a new budget for more artwork, bigger artwork, better artwork. I'm learning, I'm growing every day. I got tons of stuff I'm working on. I got tons of stuff I'm studying. Plenty of paintings in the works. Yeah, so head over to my website if you want to buy some art. You can get a custom painting, custom drawing, free, by the way. Other than that, that's it. Go do that. I might draw you next. Who knows? Take care.